autobiography, The Feelings Are Mutual, you mention that social interaction is possibly one of the traits of Asperger's that affects you the most. What do you actually mean by that?
Well, with social interaction problems, I mean, people have told me to my face that they don't think I have any social interaction problems, but it's a subtle thing. It's triggered off by changes in circumstances sometimes. For example, my wife and I were invited to a meal at a friend's house. It was us and two other married couples. And I got there, I was fine, we had the meal, I was fine, but that's because when I'm eating I'm occupied, I'm not thinking about the other people, I'm thinking about what I'm doing. So the meal is over, then we're having a chat about various things, and the more the conversation is going on, the more tense I'm feeling, more anxious, and the breathing starts to change, and I get quite short of breath and very flushed, and then people say, "Oh, you're looking very red," and that of course then makes me more anxious because people have noticed it.
So it's noticeable to other people that there's a change in you.
Yeah, and it happens suddenly, it's quick, and so they're then a bit sort of unnerved by it, and they don't know what's happening. On this particular occasion, I ended up sat on the doorstep getting air because I was going to pass out. And the only thing that was happening was socialising. Nothing was being said that made me feel uncomfortable. No one was being aggressive. But the moment that conversation started, and the more out of it I felt, so that they were talking about something that I had no experience in, I think. And so because I couldn't participate to the same level that the others were, I got so anxious that I nearly passed out.
And on another day, could you be in that same situation and it not affect you?
Well, yeah, I can give you an example of that. My workplace. I work in a post room, so I work in the same room every day with all the same people doing the same things, and feel comfortable. I'm very much at ease, very comfortable doing that. On this particular day, one of them. It was a few months ago, one of them left, they were leaving, so they had a little party. So at 12 noon, the manager said, right, we're all going to stop our work for an hour and we're going to have a little farewell party for our workmate that's leaving. So they get all the sandwiches out and all the cakes, and everyone stood round eating sandwiches and chatting. And I was just stood by this table, almost sort of seized up. People were trying to engage me in conversation and I wasn't saying much, and that the more anxious I felt, eventually I left. I just left them to it. I went for a walk for an hour and left them all. And when I came back, they said, "Where did you go?" And of course having to answer questions about it
makes it more stressful.
So when people say, "Oh, you seem all right to me," you don't have any social anxiety problems, that they are wrong. It's subtle, and when it's triggered, it's quick, and it's unnerving. It's unnerving for me, very uncomfortable. I get very awkward about it, and then in the aftermath, I go into meltdown, where I obsess about everything that I did and the way I might have been perceived. And the paranoia kicks in, and that all then escalates into depression, and it can be quite severe depression too. So a very deep feeling of self-loathing.
And you're probably more acute, or the feeling that you feel that you stood out is probably far more acute to you than those people around you. They possibly didn't notice at all, but you're not able to tell yourself that.
Well, I know from the autobiography, The Feelings Are Mutual, people who I've mentioned in it, who've read it since, have said to me, "I had absolutely no idea you thought that about me," or "you thought that's what was going on when we went to that place." And it's been a surprise to me that what I've sort of carried around with me for 20 years, thinking that this thing happened and people have been thinking things about me, they've got no idea what I'm talking about. So it is very much internalised, and like I said, it escalates into paranoia and very dark thoughts, you know, self-loathing, when it grabs you, it's hard to get away from it.
Sort of feel you've let yourself down.
I was invited by a group of friends who I know very well. I like them all. They're great friends, to Tenpin bowling. Let's go Tenpin bowling. So I said to my wife, I think I'll be all right with that. You know, I've done it before. I know what it's like. So we got as far as the door to this place, and I just froze. I just couldn't go in. I saw my friends lined up, getting their shoes, you know, the special Tenpin bowling shoes, getting the shoes on, and paying for their session. But I could hear the pop music playing quite loud. I could see all the pins being knocked over and being picked up by the mechanical apparatus, and I could see the other people who weren't my friends having a good time, and all of that. It's what do they call it? In all the literature about Aspergers, they call it sensory
overload.
Yeah, sensory,
or hypersensitive to your
sensory
surroundings.
overload. So it's. I mean, I never knew anything about this. I just used to get frustrated with myself that I couldn't do something that was ordinary and simple and that everybody enjoyed. And then when I found out about Asperger's and saw that it's sensory overload, that your brain is trying to process all the sounds, all of them, and everything that you can see, and the smell and the taste, and having to deal with conversations, and it's trying to do everything all at once. There's no filter. And that's what creates panic, because you can't focus on everything all at the same time. So I came out of that episode, my wife had to go in and say, I'm sorry, you can't cope, we're going home. And I spent the rest of the day hating myself and feeling like a laughing stock. So it when it happens, it's deeply uncomfortable. It's unnerving for me, and sometimes it worries the people around me because it's so unexpected, the change.